price overtaking brand, do you think, or badge?
So it does in terms of the filter, absolutely, that we see. It's the first filter is price.
That's interesting.
And then it goes down to make a model after that.
Really interesting.
Photos are really important, actually more important than video. So again, it's the photos, they want more photos, more quality photos. I guess they're able to zoom in and kind of control the experience a bit more than a video.
Hi guys, welcome back to the Armchair Show. This week it's a marketing special and we have 4 very special guests. We've got Neil Smith, CEO of Motivate Automotive Consultancy, April Wyatt, Head of Marketing at Waylands, Becky Carrington, Marketing Manager at Sandicliffe, and Lucy Tugby, who is the Marketing Director at motors.co.uk and eBay Motors Group. Let's get into it. So guys, welcome to the Armchair Studio. We do have some familiar faces sitting opposite me, but some new faces as well. April, you've been here before. I think you've been in the studio before, haven't you?
I have, yes.
From memory. So, welcome back. What fascinates us, and certainly the people that watch these shows, is what it's like actually to work in them. Because a lot of people who are watching this and listening to this are thinking about joining the motor trade in some form or another, and there are so many different ways of doing that. What's it like from your perspective, Lucy, to actually work in this industry?
Yeah, I mean, I think... as I say, I've only sort of still feel like I'm relatively new to the industry. And what has really struck me was how welcoming everybody was, but also the real pride in the sector that people have that's actually really stood out for me compared to other sectors I've worked in. And I think there's that sort of pride and there's a real glue within the industry. So, I think other sectors actually have a lot to learn from that. And I think also now automotive is probably more connected to other sectors. We're all facing the same challenges, whether that be how to engage consumers, that sort of mix between that relationship between brand and consumers has changed. So I think automotive has a lot to kind of learn from other sectors as well as sectors learn from automotive as well. So, and with like the evolution of EV as well, the kind of all consumers are looking for ways to be sort of greener and to have less impact on the planet, and actually automotive is part of that, and really dealers being able to explain to consumers about how making greener choices in terms of automotive actually can have an impact on the rest of their lifestyles as well.
Yeah. So it is so different now, isn't it? It's such a different place and very tech driven as well, I suppose. Absolutely. Is a big thing. Have you found that at Sandicliffe as well, Becky?
Yeah, I think the transition from internal combustion engine over into EV has been, I can't lie, challenging, and explaining how different vehicles benefit different customers, and it's getting the communication right to essentially let people know that it can impact it can impact the lifestyle, it can impact as you were saying, that it's a broader choice than just having an electric vehicle. It expands wider than that, and it depends what the customer is. That I can't think of the word. It depends on what their choices are and how they feel in sort of their day-to-day lives. So it's been a challenging time to sort of communicate that across.
And you feel that EV has driven that kind of
very
challenge?
Much so. So with seeing sort of almost the end, for want of a better, of diesel, and that transition from petrol into hybrid and then into plug-in hybrid, and now in a lot of cases into fully electric, I think that sort of brought a challenge forward. And I think COVID and supply shortages across the industry has sort of impacted that challenge as well. Yeah.
Can you speak to that, Neil, as well? How have you found that from your position?
Yeah, I think, I suppose if I want to sort of answer the first question, which was around, why is this industry so great? There's definitely never a dull moment, let's put it that way. In the years at Imperial, that was a roller coaster ride. If we look at the challenges that we're facing today, it's EVs dropping residual value over the last 3 months, massive challenge. We've got consumer duty coming along in July. We've got supply shortages. We've got cost of living crisis. The one thing about the industry is, though, we attack this head on, and as a group, we tend to come through these. We're very adaptable, very fluid in the way we operate. And that, again, is the, I suppose, the excitement within the industry. And you're right, the camaraderie within the industry and the way that everybody pulls together at those times is quite phenomenal.
Yeah. Did you find that at Waylands, April?
Yeah, so I guess I think I was thinking about this on my way in today. I figured EV would come up.
Good guess.
The EV market is so volatile at the moment, and I think as an industry, we need to be really careful not to just forget about it or park it because it's no good at the moment. Let's focus on ICE, or let's focus on what we've got supply of. And I think last time I was on here, I was talking about how as retailers, it's really important that we don't just try and sell the cars, but also educate the consumer on whether it might not be right for them at this moment in time, but I guess just helping them figure that bit out. Is it right? Is it not? But making sure that we're consistently helping them on that journey and educating them, and not just when EV is doing really well, but all the time, because 2030 is only going to keep getting closer.
Yep.
It's not going to go anywhere. So I think personally, for me, my intention is to just be consistent with that EV messaging.
Yeah, I mean, that must present quite a challenge because obviously we've got marketing people around the table. This is a marketing special, which I probably should have mentioned at the start of this talk. But all of these challenges, because that's the word that's kind of permeated this conversation so far, has been the word challenge. That must create, again, a challenge for a marketing person in this industry. And with that in mind, Lucy, what makes a good marketing person now in this industry? What do you need to have about you to kind of cope with these kind of things that we've talked about?
Yeah, I mean, I think certainly from my side, being across the data, but also the details. So I think having, if you want to influence conversations, usually asking for budget or, having a particular strong view on where you want things to go, you have to be really up to speed with kind of all of the data, but also then not miss the detail, kind of make sure you can see the nuances, make sure you can pick up on the things, the opportunities. The consumer should always be at the centre of everything you do. And I think that's, we can get lost in data. So I think don't get lost in the data, make sure you're kind of on top of it, know your stuff, but also pick up the things that really matter from that piece of data and action it. And I think being comfortable with change and ambiguity. I would say 50% of what I do, I kind of know about. The rest of the 50% is kind of unknown. And, we look at opportunities that come across our kind of our desks and we action them because that's just the way of the world now. So we're working faster at a pace that we've never experienced before. And I think you've just got to be comfortable with that change and embrace it and make the most of those opportunities.
Yeah, the data part of it that's probably one of the hardest things to kind of cope with, isn't it? Because there is so much. But how do you cope with that much? Particularly you guys, how much data you're getting in? How do you cope with that from a marketing perspective?
I mean, I think it's asking the right questions of the people who have given you the data. So really interrogating it and asking those questions, but also trying to tell stories with it. Again, it's no good in having the data if you're not actually then able to do anything with it. So for us, it's about how do we take that data for our dealers and then actually tell stories back that hopefully inform. So through our market view reports and things that we're actually able to kind of pinpoint things that are happening and then give dealers kind of advice on what's happening in the market and where they can take it.
Yeah, it's all about telling stories, isn't it? All of this really is what we're doing today. Becky, from your point of view at Sandicliffe, what do you see as a kind of vital aspect to a modern marketing person in automotive?
I think as it's been alluded to before, I think the ability to be reactive and adaptable, I think that's one of the key things, as well as to keep organised, especially when dealing across brands, as we do with Sandicliffe. It's a really difficult sort of thing to pinpoint. You need one specific skill for it. I think there is such a variety of things that could be utilised and adapted through into the role. So I definitely think, I guess, adaptability would be my word. And just sort of the outlook on being able to cope under that perpetually changing pressures of how the world's changing, how the manufacturers are changing, and how engines and, as we said about EVs before, how that's changing, and the idea of communicating the story as has been alluded to before, to make sure the customer's getting the right information at the right time.
How important is experience with this? If you're getting it, regardless of perhaps the age of the person that's coming in, what do you look for in terms of either their kind of beliefs about marketing or literally their experience that they've had elsewhere?
So, in fact, actually, it's quite relevant. We've not long taken on a new marketing executive, so that's so quite young, but with a lot of experience in marketing, but less so in automotive, because I think there's key skills surrounding marketing and how to copyright, how to approach it, how to segment the audience, and stuff. The things that can be sort of extrapolated across a wide range of industries, because you can teach automotive, you can teach how cars work, registration plate changes work, all that sort of thing. And I think marketing is, whilst it changes and grows, I think there's a level of requirement to almost hungry for knowledge, and I think that helps as well in terms of what we'd look for in someone.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things, I guess, to consider.
Do you agree with that, Neil? Do you need to know about cars and be a petrol head to be a marketing person in this industry?
No, I don't really like cars. Never have done. They're just a means of getting from A to B. But what it is a product. If we go back to the basics of marketing, pre-internet, price, product, place, promotions. So if you're not getting those 4 key pieces right, and now we add in, as we've spoken about already, customer experience. What we don't look at enough in this industry is that pre-sale customer journey still. And people will say, we'll pay lip service to it, but understanding the attrition points, the pain points, addressing those points to get to a point where we get more opportunities, more leads, more sales. We've all been very good at, over the last 3 years, improving our Trustpilot ratings. When I was back 3 years ago, if you had 3.5 star rating, you were seen to be okay. Most dealers I speak to now have done a very good job at getting to 4.5, 4.6, 4.7. But that's because they've started to understand where to ask the question about the review. We started it in Imperial, asking at the point the customer signed the order form, because we knew that was going to be the happiest they were ever going to be. That doesn't really deliver a good customer experience, though. What it does is just allow us to put out there, great, we've got loads of 5-star reviews.
It's a tick box, isn't it?
It's a tick box.
Yeah, absolutely.
So more needs to be done around that customer experience pre-sale. And look, some of the retailers we're talking about here today do a very good job. The vast proportion are not really addressing that customer experience piece.
What do you think about that, April? Do you agree with that?
I do, and actually I've had a conversation around that quite recently on customer experience, and so we start asking the customer about their experience really early, a day after they've made that inquiry. Have you had everything you need? How was it? How did your experience go? And that information that we get is just so valuable to us as a business. And we were having some conversations recently around agency model and whether we can still communicate some of those touch points, and what do we do if we can't? Because they'll be buying the car from the manufacturer, but ultimately the retailer should own that inquiry experience. So if we can't talk to the customer about their experience and make sure that it's a great one, bearing in mind that's the only thing that's going to make us different and stand out from the rest. We can't do anything on price. The price is the price is the price, as we keep saying. So I totally agree with what you've just said, customer experience, but not just when they order or after they've ordered, because we know they've got a new car and they're going to be really happy, but it's about right from that early stage of just point of inquiry.
And that kind of brings us to the ads, doesn't it? I mean, one of the first things people see, it sounds like a bit of a old-fashioned terminology these days, because obviously advertising is very different. You have influencer advertising, you have traditional advertising, you have TV, etc., etc. But thinking about the traditional side of ads, really, Lucy, what do you think makes a good car ad these days? Is it as it was 20 years ago, or is it different now? What's changed, if so?
Yeah, I mean, we've done some recent research, and unsurprisingly, the description of the vehicle being accurate and clear, jargon-free as possible, has come out at the top again as being the most important. So I think, getting that consistent. We know that consumers are checking vehicles across multiple websites. We see that on our own network. We know from our research it's about 3.5 sites that people go to just check out that vehicle and make sure that the information is correct and accurate. And then the price, obviously pricing for interest. We definitely see that behaviour again. Price is the number one filter on our sites. So we know that again has to be right. It's got to be something that that's going to make that inquiry. And we see that, people are, whilst the average overall average of sort of length to purchase is about the same. It's about 42 days. So it hasn't really changed over the years that we've been doing the research. That there are a group of people, around 30%, that are going to take longer, and that is because of price, because they are waiting for that best deal to kind of come out and look for, when that opportunity comes up. So price is definitely up there as well.
Is price overtaking brand, do you think, or badge?
So it does in terms of the filter, absolutely, that we see. It's the first filter is price.
That's interesting.
And then it goes down to make a model after that.
Really interesting.
Photos are really important, actually more important than video. So again, it's the photos, they want more photos, more quality photos. I guess they're able to zoom in and kind of control the experience a bit more than a video. And then just, opportunities to stand out, really, whether that's flexibility of test drive, so being able to offer maybe cars to be kept for 24 hours. Again, that's kind of coming up as something that's of interest.
Yeah.
So,
So it's almost like the customer is like you say, controlling the advert experience themselves, which is not something we're used to. We in front of us, we've got these ads from the 70s and 80s, which are very much thrown in your face in magazines and newspapers, and that was it, really.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is warranties as well, and MOT and guarantees are, anything like that is also something that people want to see included.
Yeah.
And having full details of kind of what's available. And that's really just goes to the kind of cost of living and people wanting to control, that kind of car buying experience and de-risk it, really.
Full transparency, really.
Absolutely.
Is that your experience, Neil? What do you think in terms of, what do you want to see in a car ad these days?
Well, I'll talk from experience. 2015, we were probably the most advanced used car retailer at the time. We did 360 spins, internal spins, 40 images plus. We were the first to put all of the documentation on the advert, so vehicle history, service history, MOT advisories, anything like that. Damage spots on the vehicle if we were going to leave any damage on them, minor damage, cosmetic issues. And it paid dividends. Right now, customers... We don't sell cars to customers. Customers decide to buy a car from us.
Yeah.
Okay. If we're honest about it now, the research phase, everything you put out there, we wanted to give a consumer every reason to buy the car from us prior to them making contact, rather than have to try and persuade them by not putting the service history up and getting a phone call and great, we got a lead. Well, you know what? Price, place, product, promotion. Get the price right, get the product right, present it right, present it in the right channels. It's the same today as it was pre-internet. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Where we've just seen the change is the consumer has far more control over this process now. And if we don't put our best foot forward online, across the aggregator sites, across Google, across every other channel that we think we can see value or we see value from, then we're not going to get that customer.
Yeah. How do you deal with that, Becky, in terms of giving enough control to the customer to let them make the right choice versus not giving them too much control, which I guess is the other side of this, isn't it?
It's a difficult line to draw, but I think, like you said earlier on, in terms of transparency, it's allowing the customer to find the information that they want at the point of the journey that they're in, and making sure that if someone wants to, know that there's service history on the vehicle, that we have that information available, because they might not be confident enough to pick up the phone. They might want to send an email inquiry. It's making sure that customers can get in touch with us if they see fit to, or they can buy completely online if they wanted to. I think with other avenues in other walks of life, especially as a result of COVID, I think that customers are used to the Amazon and the Apple experience. They're used to being able to find everything else that they want at the touch of a button or a tap of the finger. And I don't see why that should be different in automotive. I feel like we should be able to present a car in a way with the option of photographs or videos or 360s or however it is that the customer wants to see the vehicle, and they can go from there.
Yeah.
I think just to jump onto that very quickly, also, most dealer websites are visited between 6 and 11 at night. You do not have the staff there to be able to answer that query or that question or that live chat a lot of the time.
Absolutely.
Okay? So, and they will make a decision that night who they're going to then send an inquiry to, and if you haven't got back to them by 10 o'clock the next morning, you might as well forget it.
Yeah.
So why give them the opportunity to ask for a service history if you know what the service history is? If you're confident in your product, if you're confident in your price, put it out there. If you're not, that's a different matter.
Yeah. I think it's interesting also what you said, Becky, about being the customer being influenced by the experiences on things like Amazon, so that they're coming from a completely different type of shopping experience compared to the traditional car buying experience. Have you dealt with that, April? Is that something that you struggled with, or has it been something you've kind of embraced and run with?
We've definitely embraced it. I think it got accelerated in 2020 when COVID came along. We were already on that journey, but we definitely did it a lot quicker than we'd originally planned to do. And yeah, I mean, I would. Our motto is the customer should be able to do what they want, when they want, and where they want, and that's the experience that we try and deliver. We've got a team of an online sales team who monitor our live chat 7 days a week from 8 o'clock in the morning till 10 o'clock at night. So you're saying, those busy periods in the evening, the team are there to jump straight on it, answer the questions, and they are fully trained. They could go and sell a car in a showroom. They're fully compliant, everything. So we definitely kind of make sure that we're giving that experience. But I just wanted to go back to that conversation we were having around what a great advert should look like, and photos and descriptions and things like that. But I think we've still got challenges with feeds to get to that place, to get there in the first place.
What do you mean by that? What's the main
in terms of inventory and like the technology behind getting that inventory onto these platforms in the first place? You might have one kind of core platform where all your inventory sits that then pushes these feeds out to several different platforms, eBay, Motors, Auto Trader. But once they get to those platforms, they all look slightly different. So then you've got more work to do. And does it give the consumer a great experience on that platform, but possibly not on that platform? And I think there's still some work for us to do there.
There's a lot of things happening in marketing which are exciting, a little bit scary. You probably know what I'm referring to. There's all sorts of things going on. But what are you most excited about for this year? Becky, I'm going to come to you first. From a marketing perspective purely.
It's really on the spot. I'm not actually sure how to answer that, to be honest. I think there's a lot of developments in a lot of different places. I mean, I'm personally not necessarily automotive centric, but I'm quite interested to see how TikTok plays out, and very interested to see how advertising works out on that for things that aren't global, for want of a better word. So that's sort of where a little bit of my focus is on, but I'm again personally quite interested to see how Twitter turns out. I think is where I'm really looking at the moment for. But in terms of automotive, I'd be hard pressed to pinpoint any one thing that I'm really, really super excited about for this year. I think it's all going to unfold together.
It's very much unknown at the moment, isn't it? I mean, I think it probably says a lot that you can't think of one thing, really.
There's a lot going off in both social media and advertising, as well as there is in automotive. So, pinpointing one's really difficult.
You did well with that one. April, what about yourself? Anything you can pinpoint?
I'm just excited for a year of no bad news, hopefully. We're starting to see some more supply. It feels like we can start doing things properly again. We're just even just getting the brand out and about and going to events. I'm just excited to have a really good, exciting year that isn't sort of clouded with COVID or any sort of consumer confidence. It feels like that's coming back. And with the first few months of this year have just been like so full on, non-stop, but really great and really positive.
Good.
And so,
I mean, all the challenges that have been mentioned during this chat it's not been like you say, it's not been the terrible things we've had over the last 2 or 3 years. It's been stuff that it's just a nice challenge to have, I'd guess, from a marketing point of view. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, and I think it's scary, but I think there is also some opportunity, and I've been quite fortunate. To have been involved in some of the conversations with the brand around marketing and customer journey and things like that. And so far it's been really collaborative. And I think if it continues like that and we continue to work together and continue to put the consumer first, it could be quite an exciting year ahead.
Fingers crossed in that case. What about yourself, Lucy? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah, again, it's nice to be out and about and seeing people. This feels like the first year where nobody's kind of sort of talking about having to do a COVID test before they go out and things like that, which is nice. So that's great. I think some of the challenges around cost of living is actually good for us as marketeers to focus on what really matters, and actually having to work that bit harder probably with our budgets and also with our presenting our kind of arguments to get that budget. So actually I quite like a challenge, and for me I think it does make us better and stronger at what we do. If we've got, if we had an easy life, we'd all be, we wouldn't be here.
Why would you get out of bed in the morning?
Exactly.
In that case,
So, I think brands who can do that well and consistently, and consistently spend as well and don't kind of pull away from the spend, and supporting consumers through hard times. And I think that's some of our challenges really, but it's a good one to have.
Good challenge.
Yeah,
Absolutely. Neil, over to you.
I think framing challenges as opportunities is 100% the right mindset for the industry now. I suppose for me, it's the exciting piece is really getting to grips with this customer experience. Everything from the lead generation through to sale conversion. A lot of the well-performing dealers do all of that. That's great. There's still a lot of dealers that don't, and I speak to them daily and they won't know how many leads they've got. But for the really high-performing dealers, it's now getting a real handle on that customer experience, because that is how you generate more leads.
No one said the artificial intelligence word, which is fine. We would be here until Tuesday next week if we started that now. That's probably for the next show. But
let's just concentrate on understanding how many leads we get first.
Yes, from human beings who are real, living, breathing human beings. But thanks, guys. We're going to have to wrap it up there. Unfortunately, we could, like I say, we could carry on. And but thank you very much for coming back, guys, and for our new guests as well. And we'll have you again soon, definitely.
Thank you.
Thank
Cheers.
you. Thanks.
Here's the